So greetings everyone and welcome back to 365 Days of Prog. Now if you've been following on the 3 last days of this series, you'd know that I'm recording these one after another, and that is because I'm probably going on vacation and I need a few more videos to fill in the gaps for when I'm gone. But nevertheless, this is not interesting because we're today going to be listening and talking about the Mars Volta album known as Francis the Mute.
Hi, my name's Naomi. I'm an avid progressive rock fan, but I'm a long ways from knowing all the prog albums out there. But this year, I'm gonna give it a try. This is 365 Days of Prog.
So, Francis the Mute by the Mars Volta. This is the first time I'm listening to the Mars Volta actually, so I'm really looking forward to it. Now, this album has some, let's say, 5 different songs on it, although one is a huge epic split up to many pieces, and they all have unique names inspired by a diary which was found by, I think, one of the audio technicians of the band or something like that. And it's very interesting, but I think the best way I can show you what I loved and did not love about this album is by first letting you hear some of my favorite bits of this album, so enjoy. Which I've listened to recently and was kind of disappointed by their album. I was really hoping that it would not happen on this one, and of course, as this is the first listen of the Mars Volta, I was really eager to see if this was going to be good, and oh boy, was this a good listen. Well, it was not really great or stellar or anything, but it was good. I really enjoyed this album. It had some really cool songs on it, and it was pretty heavy and pretty good. Now, before we get into this, my reference point for this, band came off of the 7th album we reviewed on here, which is Getting Paid by the band Zex Marquis. Now, the way they both are connected is the fact that the leading member of Zex Marquis is the percussionist for the Mars Volta. His name is Marcel Rodriguez Lopez, and he's a really talented player, which is in the Mars Volta, playing with them, I think, since this album came out and after that. But I must say that those 2 albums, they don't really sound anyway the same. I don't even think that the drumming and percussions on them too are actually quite similar. I think they're all pretty different in many different aspects, and I'm kind of happy for it because I was not really eager to listen to something like Getting Paid a second time. Now, I believe this album to be like peak heavy prog. This is what you'd think when you'd say heavy prog. There's a lot of heaviness on it. There's a lot of those light parts, but they all lead back up to those really hard-hitting moments, and I think that's really beautiful. And another thing found on this album which makes it entirely unique is the usage of filters. Filters everywhere. I love it. I think they could have outdone themselves by it, but I think they just kept it at a right, section of artistic expression, I'd say. And the filters on the music itself that they put in post-production, I can only assume, are really good at selling off the effect. And what effect I'm actually talking about? Well, I don't really know, because this is not, as it seems, a concept album. This is an album with a really strong motive that goes all throughout it, but it just has this unique sound for it, which they really keep on getting right time after time, and I love the way this album flows. And although it was pretty long, it's a triple album, which is really unusual because you don't really get like a 3-sided album, you usually get a 2 or a 4. but this album really did engage with me throughout the entirety of its runtime. And it's really apparent that this music on here is really well thought out. I read that the main member of this band, which I don't really remember who he is, I think is Marcel's brother, he actually came up with the idea for the music and he wrote them down by himself, and then he invited each member of the band to actually play and practice with them so they could get everything like right as they should, and only then, until they all knew their parts, they actually started elaborating on them with their own nuances. And I think that's a really lovely way of creating music, taking the basis, the basic idea, and actually, building upon it instead of just going all over the place and trying to cut things down to one cohesive idea. And I also love the subtle South American vibes that this album has. I know that the Mars Volta are originally from El Paso, Texas, but some of their members are from South America, including Marcel, which he comes from Puerto Rico. And there's really subtle hints towards that type of music. It's so it's not overzealous and going all over the top. It just is there, and it's really cool because it makes the bit of difference from all the other heavy prog music out there. And of course, another thing which is really apparent on this album is the usage of Spanish. And you know what? I think that because Spanish is fairly similar to English, and I'm sure to all the American viewers on here, you can tell that you can sometimes just get the gist of things in Spanish by listening and reading them, and I think that's what I had on this album. Now, I really didn't do my research, I'm just assuming that's Spanish because I kind of know parts of the language. If I'm mistaken, please tell me, because that would be really embarrassing of me. And my favorite song off this album is Via El Viquez, and I think that's how you say it, and that song really uses certain sections which are in Spanish and certain sections which are in English, and it's really differentiated between the two. And this track is my favorite because it has something really unique which I've never seen done before on a song ever. This is a long track, but it repeats itself. Now, usually when I use the word repeat and repetitive on this show, I mean to say that it's not good because it's, not intuitively good, it's not original, it's not unique, it's just going through the same exact thing. But this time, what I'm actually saying is that this song actually uses its repetitiveness in a way which is really special, because each time the section of the song, the big section, is repeated once again, it gets more distorted, it gets odd in some way, and it makes it more interesting each time, and it gives you a different interpretation. By the way, did you notice that 3 hours have passed since the last section of the video? Yeah, I know, that's what happens when your just battery runs out in the middle of the video. By the way, you can see my screen on here. So other than that song, there is one song which I really like for a completely different reason than what we usually look at, and it's called Miranda, That Ghost Just Isn't Holy Anymore. And I think that's a great song because of its name. It's such a funny name, I don't know why. I just think the concept of ghosts not being holy anymore, phrasing it like that, something about it is really funny. And as I've seen on Spotify, and as I know beforehand, I know that Widow is supposed to be the radio friendly song on here, and I totally get that because it's a good thing to popularize an album. But I just found that to be the worst track on here. Well, it's not bad, it's just not that exciting. It's very accessible in a way which makes it boring in my opinion, and I think that this song may be as good for people who are getting into the Mars Volta and don't really get and know the idea of prog and heavy prog. And talking about maybe the last and biggest piece on here, it's Cassandra Gemini. Now, that is such a big song which made it split up into a lot of different tiny tracks all throughout the end of the album, and I think it's a good song, but for some reason I was expecting it to be the magnum opus of the Mars Volta. I don't know why, I didn't really have any basis on thinking that, but I was expecting something better than anything else. And no, it's not that. As you already know, it's not my favorite track on here, and none of the parts are. And I don't know why I thought it would be that good. It's not that it's bad, it's really rock, it's really heavy, it's really good. It has, I think, two of the most hard-hitting sections on this album for sure. Like 2 sections which I just went like, fuck, and I just didn't know what to do, and I'm sorry for saying that word, but that's what I felt. I felt multiples of those words. And all in all, although it does get pretty good at some points, I just don't think it's that amazing. So yeah, it's a good song, but it's not a stellar song. But all in all, the musicianship, the idea, the performing, the production, everything about this album is really good, and I think it was a great way to actually spend my time. So let's move on to the cover of this album. I love this cover. It's really nice. I really like it. Of course, it's made by Storm Thorgerson. Now, if you don't know who Thorgerson, I can't speak today. If you don't know who Storm Thorgerson is, he's the leading artist behind the group Hypnosis, which they've made a lot of prog covers for a lot of the well-known prog bands. I think most known is Pink Floyd, of course. They made the Dark Side of the Moon cover, and they also made my personal favorite albums cover, which is Atom Heart Mother, and they've made a lot of different things for Dream Theater and other people. So the thing I really like about this cover is how it's framed and everything, but I do love the direct influence that it takes from René Magritte's The Lovers. Of course, if you don't know the painting, it's the one with the 2 people, like the couple having their faces over with a sack. And I love the way that this influenced this cover, at least I think it is, because that's just the first connotation it gives to mind. The second connotation this one brings to mind is actually a quote from Echoes by Pink Floyd. I don't know why, but I wanted to share it with you all because it just really inspired me thinking about this quote. So the quote being, "Strangers passing in the street, by chance 2 separate glances meet." And I don't know why, but that one just really sticks with this image. So with a great cover like that and great music, this album will receive a very hard-hitting 7 out of 10. It might have been an 8, but I don't know, there's some weak parts on here, but I think that overall, with my taste of music and the way the music on here is made and the way I learned to appreciate this type of music, I think the 7 out of 10 is really deservable for this album, and I loved it very much. So that's about it, guys. I hope that you enjoyed this one. I'm sorry for the big time cut. Maybe it made this video a little bit disoriented, maybe not. I hope it hasn't, but if it did, I'm sorry again. But I hope that you'll stay with me for tomorrow, where we'll be doing a full video, hopefully not cut in the middle, on the album Space Ritual Alive by the band Hawkwind. But until then, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Bye, guys.